Okay, this is Dwight Woods, Jeet Kune Do Rebel, getting ready for Jeet Kune Do Dialogue episode number 4 with Sifu Mark Mills of, when he gets on I have to find out if it's Columbia or Lexington, South Carolina. I apologize for the late start. Mark and I ran a test on everything yesterday, I think it was, and everything worked fine. And then, of course, today, as soon as I came on, my internet started acting up, and so I wasn't able to connect to him immediately. So apologize for the late start, but we'll go ahead and do this right now. Give me one more sec here. Okay, and then if it doesn't work on this platform, we'll switch and go to the other page and see if we can do it from there. All right, so I'm just waiting for him to come on. All right. Connecting.
Hey,
You
how
see?
about that?
Right?
Yes, sir.
The only thing is, on my end, the connection. I don't know what happened at 12:30. So anyhow, we're here. How you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. How about you?
All right, very good. Okay, so let me introduce everyone here. This is Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode number 4 with Mark Mills. Do you have any idea when it was we first met?
It would have been probably mid-90s,
Okay.
maybe my first trip to the Southeastern Conference.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, mid-90s. And then a few years later, I ran into you at a NAPMA convention in Florida.
Okay.
And that was a really great weekend for me.
Okay. Was that your first martial arts business conference?
No, I don't. I think I might have done one other one maybe down there before that.
Okay.
And then I ran into you at that one, which made it a whole lot better. I know Bill Clark spoke at that one.
Okay. So, and that too would have been in the 90s, right?
Yes, sir. That probably would have been later 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, just by way of introduction, for those of you who are watching, Mark is one of the guys that I refer to as the Carolina crew, right? Because there's you from South Carolina, there's Rick McElroy from South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
There's, Rob Kelly from North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
There's Dickie Harrell, right? One of my childhood heroes. I can't wait until I get him on the dialogue. Right,
awesome.
From North Carolina. Now, and then of course, in the Jeet Kune Do clan, for me at least, the Carolinas are famous because of the Great Smoky Mountain Camp.
Yes, sir.
Were you an attendee at Smoky Mountain?
No, sir. I never got to attend that one. That was a little bit before my my JKD time.
Okay.
And I hate that I missed that. I know a lot of those guys, from up there.
Well,
that was like the whole source in that area.
Right. I missed it too, but that was because, as Paula Inosano used to say about me back then, because of my airline stuff and traveling and staying in hotels and flying first class and what have you, she used to make a joke that my idea of roughing it was black and white TV. So the idea of pitching a tent never really appealed to me. So I missed the entire 10 years of Smoky Mountain, but in hindsight, I wish I had spent some more time there. So you said that was before your JKD thing. So tell me if I have this right. Your bio on the website says that you started out in Okinawan karate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Was that Goju-Ryu?
No, it was Shurei-Ryu.
Ah, okay.
So I trained with a local instructor named Ridgely Abel, whose school, he passed away a few years ago. His school is like a few miles from where my school is now. And he had I was in the.
Isn't there a Levon Martin connection to Ridgely Abel?
Yes, sir. That was my first connection on it like that. At that point, he had Steve Wrench was teaching.
Right.
I actually have a black belt, and I don't remember the name of the style of jiu-jitsu, but it was more of a traditional stand-up jiu-jitsu. And that's where I originally met Levon, though that wasn't my original tie-in with like Sifu Fong and stuff. That would have been through Rick McElroy. I was in Hilton Head one weekend and kind of wandered into a seminar that Rick was doing, and he had Wing Chun and Kali and a little bit of Muay Thai. And I got on his mailing list, and then he had Sifu Fong in a month or so later, and I went down for that. And then I saw Sifu Fong there twice before he invited me to come to Atlanta to train. And for most of that year, every other Saturday, I would drive to Atlanta on Saturday mornings and do the classes and then come back. And that's when I started with the Southeastern Conferences. At that time, usually they did 3. They were doing one in July at that time too. And it was just a miserable hot. I think Sifu Fong just dropped that one time, man. It was just literally for the Thai session, we were like just standing in sweat. And it was crazy. Even for me, and I'm from, we're used to that kind of heat here.
Right. So it was then through Sifu Fong that you met Sifu Inasano?
Yes, sir. The very first, that was the March camp, I think, when it was Sifu Dan and Simu Pala actually was still traveling then.
Right.
And they did, and Master Cha was there, so we did the session. And one of the things that most impressed me about Guru Dan then was he did his session and went to lunch. And he was a few minutes late, but he came back with his tie shorts and grabbed a partner and did the whole afternoon session.
Yeah.
And Master Cha did not treat him any differently than anybody else. And he didn't behave any differently than anybody else, too. And that really impressed me, that white belt attitude. He got out there and worked just like everybody else and stuff. And because that was in the 90s, he was younger then, but that was still pretty impressive after 4 hours of teaching. But it was that really impressed me. That's one of the things that impressed me the most about him that weekend.
So previous to that, had you taken a look at Jeet Kune Do in any way, or was it just the transition from the Shuri to Wing Chun?
Yeah, it'd been some time in there. I trained in Shuri as a teenager, and then I'd gone back and started doing jiu-jitsu there. But no, it was pretty random chance that I wound up at Rick's seminar. I was just in Hilton Head, and it was like a couple hours, and it's like it was right around the corner. I said, I just happened to see a flyer. And I wandered in. And then I said I came back, and I did like a 4-hour session with Sifu Fong. And, of course, I was super impressed with that. And then the second session I did with Sifu Fong, I pretty much gave up everything that I was doing and said, this is for me.
Right.
You've trained with Sifu Fong. I mean, he's impressive on a martial arts standpoint, but on a human standpoint too.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you, because a lot of the people who are watching, like my old student Chip Kelly, he would understand immediately what you're talking about, because we have had a similar experience with Dan Inasano, with Francis Fong. But I want, if you could dig a little bit deeper and elaborate on that effect that Francis Fong had on you.
He's one of those guys, a lot like Guru Dan on it like that. And I know Sifu Fong much better because I spent more time with him on it like that.
Okay.
But both of them, I was fortunate enough. We had Guru Dan here in Columbia 2 or 3 times in July in the heat. There's some funny stories that go with that too. But he would fly into Charlotte, so I got to drive him down and back, so you got to spend some time with him and stuff like that. And for the wondrous martial arts ability that they have, that both he and Sifu Fong have,
Yeah.
They were both just really wonderful, warm, caring human beings. And martial arts context or not, I don't think you can be around them very long and not just feel better. It's just they just both radiate an energy on it like that makes you feel better. I had trained in another traditional style of karate, and at some point in there, my instructor had said that, and it was a very combative style, so not sport karate and stuff like that. And he had mentioned somewhere that the style was really good against most things, but to watch out for the Wing Chun guys because they would probably eat us alive. And that was kind of attracting me to Rick's seminar. It was like, oh, there's Wing Chun. My instructor said to watch out for that.
Right.
And then just the way Sifu teaches on it like that, the styles that we had done, like Shure, very form-oriented and stuff on it like that. Okay. And, of course, Sifu Fong, other than the Wing Chun forms, is the opposite of that, especially in seminar. He does applications. And it's cool, and it's different, and it just kind of hooked me right away. And then I said, Sifu used to laugh because I would drive. It's a 3.5-hour drive each way for me. And he would laugh every time he'd see me in there that he couldn't get people to drive across Atlanta. Right. And I'm driving all the way down on it like that.
Yeah.
And then I would go see Guru Dan anywhere that was 6 or 7 hours away. He asked me at one seminar, because I had, for probably 5 or 6 years, 50 hours or more of seminar training with him. And I would see him I saw him up in Virginia Beach. I saw him in Tampa, Sarasota, Atlanta. And finally one day he asked me, he said, where are you actually from? Because he would see me, every time he was close on it like that. Right. And then I was really honored. Levon, along with Tony Palermo, helped me get into the instructors program.
I remember that Tampa seminar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was some pictures. Somebody posted a picture the other day with I was sporting sweatpants and a fanny pack.
Yeah.
and rocking it too, I might add. So
yeah.
I keep telling my daughters I'm going to bring that fanny pack back, and they just say no.
So is that what led to your joining the instructor program? After he had seen you for so many times, he invited you into it?
Sort of. And then Tony Palermo was in and Levon was in. They both wrote letters to recommend me on it like that. And I think Tony was going out in that, I would say maybe 98. And he said, man, you should see if you can get into the program and go out to instructors camp with me. And I didn't have any idea that I would actually get in, Right. Guru Dan sees so many people and stuff like that. But, after a while, he kind of gets to know you at least a little bit and stuff on it.
Exactly.
Like and I was super honored. I remember the day, it was a weekend, I got my certificate on it like that. And it probably meant more to me at that point than anything. I already had a couple of black belts, but just getting that apprentice instructor's certificate, both was very exciting and then terrifying, because before that, I really wasn't expected to know anything. But then when you get that, and now you're representing Guru Dan, right? It's like it's heavy. It was. I remember it being. I remember telling my wife at the time, I said, "Man, this is like heavy stuff here now. Now I can't just be like just another goofy martial arts guys." And there were so many people at the Southeastern camp, because I went 10 years, I didn't miss a single one. Right. And there were so many people down there that were senior students, including yourself, that, I was like the last kid picked on softball when it's time to partner up and stuff like that. You don't know which end of the stick to hold. Yeah. I remember doing that first seminar and coming back to my training buddy, and he was like, it was 8 hours of calling along with the tie. And he's like, well, what did you learn? The only thing I could do was Heaven 6 and Umbrella 6. Hey. He said, that's all you learned in 8 hours? And it's like, that's the only thing I could reproduce. Right. And, you know how Guru teaches and stuff on it like that. When you're new, it's just like, right away.
So when did you already have a school when all this was going on, or when did that come along?
No, I started training with Sifu Fong, and I had actually been my karate instructor. I taught at his school for a while, and then we kind of had a parting of the ways. And so when I started training with Sifu Fong, I had some guys that wanted to train, and I'd asked him, I said, it's okay if we just train as a group? Because the problem, especially with Wing Chun and with JKD, it's not a lot you can do on your own. You can do, like for Wing Chun, you can do the forms, but for the trapping and stuff like that, and the dummy, right? So I really like the dummy because you can do that by itself. Yeah. And he said that was fine. So I started as a small group. At that time, I was in the automotive business, so I'd have 2 or 3 people. And then one night I kind of looked around. I got like 12 people were scattered all over the shop, and I said, we gotta move out of here. So I'd asked him, is it okay if I start a small club? Was all it was. And so I got like 10 of the guys together. I said, hey, we'll rent a little building. It was like $450 a month. We'll all just pitch in a percentage of the rent, which you've been in business a long time. That didn't last very long, but I just picked up the tab on it.
Right.
And I had Sifu come up a couple of times, and he allowed me to teach. So I was already teaching then. And I had my own school when I went back training at Ridgely School in Jiu-Jitsu. And it was funny. His school was the Columbia School of Karate Do, and at that time we were Columbia Martial Arts Training Center. And I was open with it. It's like, I'm not here to steal people. I'm just training.
Yeah.
And so I was up front. He was cool with it on it like that. He used to come by here every now and then on it like that, or at least at my other location. We moved to this location in 2007.
So I remember when the acronym CMATC was associated with you. Now, something about Lexington martial arts. Now, I don't know enough about South Carolina. What's Columbia? What's Lexington?
Well, Lexington is like an outskirt of Columbia, and that's where we've always been, is in Lexington. But at that time, I was thinking big, and so I was thinking Columbia would be a little bit more inclusive. I wish I'd been thinking bigger and not had a geographical identifier with the name. At some point, hopefully, if things go well, I'll need to change that. But now we're just Columbia Martial Arts and Fitness. Okay. But there was a guy who used Lexington Martial Arts Training Center, and he was just kind of one of those guys that kind of siphons off and tries to duplicate. He used to come by and pick up our flyers and then white out my logo and put his on it, and then put his flyers out on it like that too. So, yeah, you've been around a while, so I don't begrudge anybody. Let them try on it like that. Right. We do what we do, and I don't really worry about what anybody else does. Fortunately, there are no other JKD schools. I said you have us here. There's some guys in the upstate, Rick and Hilton Head, and then Charlotte, and there's a couple other, I think, of JKD schools of other lineages on it like that. So the other karate schools and stuff like that, they've always been very open and welcome. But I think because we're kind of like the odd kid, we're the special kid. Mm-hmm. So everybody was kind of nice to us and stuff on it like that, because we didn't do what they do. So MMA used to be a big part of what we do, and they would send us all the MMA crazies and stuff like that.
Oh, you get those people? Yeah.
We used to, yeah. Now it's a we don't even do fighters. We had some fighters and stuff for a while, but now we don't. That's just even a very tiny part of what we do. The fighting part is not where we're at right now.
All right. The promotion stuff that I sent out for this, I listed you as a Jeet Kune Do, Kali, Wing Chun, CSW, and BJJ and MMA instructor, I think, right?
Yes, sir. That sounds right.
How do you wear all those hats? And what's the formula for wearing all those hats and running a successful school?
That is probably the same issue that virtually every JKD school runs into. Our schedule is a nightmare. We're about 300 students, about 200 kids. And the kids program is the easy part because we just take all of that and kind of smush it together. Yeah. And we don't have like a separate, it's not like there's anything separate on it like that. But we do have for adults, separate JKD program, separate BJJ program, separate Muay Thai program. The Kali program we've kind of integrated into the JKD on it like that. And then we also do like a couple of different types of fitness classes and stuff too.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
at some
You're
point,
you're
oh,
you're
yeah.
CrossFit certified.
Yes, sir. Yeah, from way back when it was a lot easier to be CrossFit certified. I'm level one on it, but we're not a CrossFit affiliate. So
Okay.
I incorporate a lot of the CrossFit stuff into, like, we do like a 5 a.m. workout 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I incorporate a lot into that. We have a 10 o'clock class, which we do as well too. I like the metabolic parts. I don't do like the heavy, crazy stuff on it like that. I don't feel comfortable with some of that. So you don't see us throwing huge weights and stuff around.
Now that you mentioned 5 a.m., when we were setting up, and rehearsing for this, you had mentioned that you were getting to the academy at 8:15 in the morning,
Yes, sir.
right? And then you had a 10:30 a.m. class.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that typical day for you? You're there at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm here. I get in about 4:50, and we do a class from 5 to 5:45, and then I go back home and get my girls up and get them to school. And I'm usually back here by 8:15, and then 8:15 till 7:30 or so. Usually we'll leave for a couple hours for lunch and do our errands and stuff like that. So,
You do realize that that's like a 14-hour day, right?
yeah, I always tell people, yeah, I'm lucky. I just work half days, 12 hours.
Okay.
But it's what I do for starting in 93 is when we were a club. 94 we were a school. At that time I also had 3 other muffler shops. I was in the automotive business, so I did all those all day long and then taught at night.
Right.
And I did that up until 2007 when I sold my last shop. We opened up this school and went full time.
Okay.
Which again is another story, and I like that. Looking back, it was like a stupid thing to do. It worked. We made it work, but
Yeah.
it was like, okay, let's build a building, triple your expenses. Oh yeah, and let's go ahead and quit our real paying gig to do this part-time thing too. And let's see, I had just had my second daughter as well too.
Yeah.
So it was like it's like Gerber calls it an entrepreneurial seizure. It's like, okay, all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, because everybody makes a lot of money teaching martial arts.
Right. Oh yeah. So Natma would have been your first adventure into martial art business, so to speak, correct?
Yeah, when we first started, to me it was just a hobby. And like a lot of people that start out, it was probably costing me $500 a month to run the school. Every month I would say, okay, we're short, but I would just put it in. I didn't have any other hobbies, so I didn't go out drinking. I didn't hunt, didn't fish. This is what I did. And from a business standpoint, it made all my traveling deductible because at probably 97, 98. 1 year I did 26 seminars, including 2 that were a week long. And at that time, that was my first wife then, and she was very understanding on it like that. But I was gone every other weekend, sometimes back to back. I remember going from Atlanta on Saturday to Myrtle Beach on Sunday. I went to see Fu Fong on Saturday, went to see Larry Hartzell in Myrtle Beach on Sunday. Like that. It was crazy, but that's kind of what you had to do back then, is get it when it was there.
Right.
And so it was part-time, but when we started looking at going full-time and we started having kids, it was like, when I got married in 2001 again, and then my daughter was born in 2003, Tanya kind of looked at this hobby and said, hey, this thing is running $500 to $1,000 a month. We got to do something about that. And at that time, I'd signed with EFC, and that would have been my first experience. And I don't remember the name of the consultant like that, but he sat down and he did the math. Okay, this is how many square feet you got. It's part-time, so these are the hours you have. This is what you're charging. Do the math. You couldn't possibly make it pay for itself, much less do that. And then he hit me like really hard. He said, you do realize that this is your child's future that you're spending. And it was like, whoa, and at that time we were charging $45 a month. no
Wow.
contracts. Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
Same as most people go through on it like that. You start out on
Yeah.
it like that, and
You know,
and then
as much of a criticism that some of the criticisms that I have about those martial art business people, what you just described there, I think is probably the greatest benefit that you can get from associating with them. They make you think about martial art in a much more professional manner.
yes,
And
and
they
the funny thing is, I had a successful business, and I knew
right,
how to run. I had 3 shops that were making really good money, but for
right,
some reason, I couldn't transfer that
exactly. There
to
was
what I
no
was doing. It was just state of mind. I just thought of it as a hobby,
Mhm.
and it was fun, and it's what I enjoy doing. I go back to I grew up with Bruce Lee. I remember seeing Bruce Lee's movies in the early '70s. I would have been in my teens, actually too
Yeah.
young to get into them because at that time I think most of those were rated R for violence. But what really got me was like the Kung Fu TV series.
Okay.
And for some reason back then, I decided that I wanted to be a martial arts instructor and have a school. And for
Okay.
some reason, instead of just doing that, I call it the long route. I figured I would start another business, make that successful to fund the martial
To fun.
arts school,
Yeah.
you know. So I
So
spent 30 years in the automotive business to
yeah.
fund the martial arts business instead of,
Yeah.
I wish I just went straight to B and skipped the whole A part.
What do you think that because like have you ever had a conversation with any of the professional Taekwondo people?
No, no, I have
Okay.
not. Very, very few. Now I'll say no, but there's some that are in some of the associations that we're in on it like that. But they're
Yeah.
kind of independent. I know like all the karate school guys in town. We know and we talk to each other, and we're not really competitors. Nobody's in the same geographical area. But the Taekwondo guys, they all stay to themselves. They don't.
Yeah. The reason why I bring that up is because in 19 it was either 1984 or 1985 when I was in St. Louis, Missouri. After the seminar, I went up to Columbia, Missouri, and I met a guy from the local ATA school, American Taekwondo Association school, and he told me that if his numbers ever went down, then the company would send an analyst in to see what had gone wrong. And he said that the worst thing that would happen if they couldn't fix the problem is they would close the school and move him somewhere else.
Yeah.
And this is 1984 or 85. So we are all still thinking about martial art and Jeet Kune Do as a hobby, but these guys are running businesses. Why do you
And
think
that's
that
why they
was?
have the most successful martial arts business model.
Yeah,
ATA is probably one of the biggest.
yeah. Why do you think that is? That in Jeet Kune Do there wasn't this idea of run it as a business.
Well, I think for one, in general, for most martial artists, it was at that time the mindset was it was wrong to make money from teaching martial arts. It was considered negative on it like that. The
Mm-hmm.
ATA obviously they had a different approach. They looked at it as a business on it like that.
Yeah,
But for a lot of them on it like that, and then there's a whole and you've spoken to this, Guru Dan's spoken to this, the whole commercialization aspect of JKD.
mm-hmm.
And one of the things that drove me was that same NAPMA that we were at. I don't know if you remember, we had lunch one day, and then after that, we just had lunch in your room, and we just talked business on it. And I remember your passion in Taekwondo, and even Guru Dan will talk about this. Even he talked about in the Philippines and stuff like that. There's more Taekwondo
Yeah,
than the native martial arts because
yeah.
their business model is so solid.
Right.
And you were definitely passionate about the fact that that is the spot that JKD should be. It should be the
Mm-hmm.
preeminent martial art in the world.
Yes.
And it's not, because it was kind of not necessarily mishandled, but it just was not handled properly on it like that with the
Right.
same. It's just mindset on it like that.
Yeah.
You know.
See, I think because before, like, you could not walk up to the average person on the street, not even today, and ask and give them the name. You know, Grandmaster Jun Rhee just passed away recently.
Yes, sir.
If I go outside my house and the first person I see on the street, I ask them, do you know who Jun Rhee was? They're not going to know.
No.
If I ask them, you know who Bruce Lee was? They're going to know. So how come we have this entity, right, that's known by everyone inside and outside, but his art is on a lower level than the art. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Sir.
It's a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing.
It really is, and I think a lot of it was the mindset in the beginning. You know, the way it was taught, and so many of even the really good, you know, JKD instructors still do like a backyard type format.
Yeah.
And I think that was, you know, because Bruce Lee, you know, they closed the school, and then, you know, Guru Dan was teaching in the backyard for a lot of those guys and stuff on it like that. Yeah. And I know that there were some concerns about commercializing JKD. And I know, you know, I think Guru Dan had some concerns and stuff about on it like that. And then I think, to me, it seemed like what really like kind of spawned him back to promoting it again is because so much of it was being mispromoted.
Right.
You know, at that point, anybody could just I teach JKD, and it's because I teach a karate kick and a kung fu punch, and so now that's JKD.
Yeah.
And
see,
that, you know, that's
one,
not it.
One thing on it is that even if Bruce Lee said, you know, close the school and not commercialize, he didn't close the school and then adopt a non-commercial approach to his martial art. He went extremely commercial because he put it into the movies.
Yes, sir.
You see, which is a master stroke, because now you make the product once, and now you get paid perpetually for it.
Yes, sir.
You see, which is a viable business approach. So what would you say today is your Jeet Kune Do mindset today, 2018, running your school? What's your mindset today?
Well, I tell you, I work with I've worked with a lot of really good consultants and mentors, and right now I'm working with Greg Horton, who runs Mastery Martial Arts in Rhode Island.
That's my boy.
Yeah, and he is the one, and I already kind of knew this, but he is the one that opened it up, that it is not really about the martial arts. It's not about the technique. It's about the effect that it has. One of his sayings is that an amazing sidekick will not change your life. You know, it's not going to change your life at all. Now, the process of developing that kick will help change your life. So for us, it's not nearly as much about the technique. And I think, you know, one of the quotes from Bruce Lee, and I'll probably mess it up a little bit, is when he first started martial arts, he thought a punch was a punch and a kick was a kick. And then he learned that a punch wasn't a punch and a kick wasn't a kick. But then after he trained for a while, he indeed found out that a punch was a punch and a kick was a kick. So for us, it's the underlying attitude and stuff about that. That's what makes it. The philosophy part of what they do, not so much the technical aspect, but and I know you've spoken a lot to the philosophy behind what Bruce Lee did. You know, he was, you know, he didn't mind making money off of the arts. You know, he did a lot of privates and stuff like that. And at that time, the amount he was charging would have been astronomical. And when he was working with the stars and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so he had certain financial aspirations on it too.
Yeah.
But I think for us, and we were already pretty successful. I've been working with Mr. Horton, I guess, about a year and a half. We were already pretty successful. But he's helped us add a layer of emotion and attitude into it on it like that. And I think that's made the really big difference, especially for kids. but adults want the same thing. Nobody really wants to work out.
Yeah.
They want the benefit of
Right.
working out. They want the way it feels, but nobody wants to say, okay, I'm going to go do 100 burpees.
Yeah.
But it feels good to say you did 100 burpees. The effects on your body are good, but the workout itself is too much, and too many times people are too focused on the technical aspect of it.
Yeah. Have you ever taken a look at his operation in Rhode Island?
Yes, sir. I've been up 3 times. I'm in his platinum group, so I've been up 3 times. And I'm headed back up in another couple of weeks.
Okay. I went up for when he brought Sifu Inasano to Rhode Island.
Ah, okay.
Right. And I'll never forget one of the kids in, I guess maybe his master's club or something, and I forget. It's probably the student creed, but I don't recall. But it was this little bitty kid that could walk up and look you in the eye, and then just tell you with supreme confidence what martial art is about.
Yes, sir.
Right? So, I mean, but I noticed though that your website is a full contact marketing website.
Yep, FCOM. Yep.
That's the New York group.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. So I was wondering if you did you work with them also at one point?
No, we did, and this is like the business part of it, like that. For the first few years, I had one of my students. We did a website, and the website was good. And then I had one of my other instructors who was with me for a long time. We did a website, and it was good. They were very technical. We got all kinds of compliments and stuff on them like that, and we got 0 leads.
Right.
So I finally broke down, and I talked to Nick D from FCOM, and I said, I'm just going to try this. It was, I said, we're going to try this. And as a martial artist, if you look at the website, I hate it.
Me too. Yeah.
It is straight salesy right up the bat on it like that.
Yep.
It generates, on a typical month, depending on what we're doing on Facebook, maybe 150 opt-ins a month.
Right.
And those opt-ins convert to leads and stuff on it like that, because you have to look at it with something besides what a martial arts, outside of martial arts eyes.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I had a serious objection. But it helps that I'm a Gemini, so I can be 2 people at the same time, right? So I had a serious objection as a martial artist to their approach, because they use a cookie cutter approach to
yes,
the
sir.
website. They just change the name and the contact information, but everything else is essentially the same. So I had there was a part of me that had an objection to that. And then there was the part of me that realized why that was necessary, because of everything that goes on behind the scenes. To run a successful school, all right, I made a note here. You have to wear, we talked about it before, you have to wear different hats. You got to be a therapist.
Yes, sir.
You're right. You're a mentor, right? You probably have to be a peacekeeper at some point.
Yes, a good bit.
Right. And you're also, I'm sure, an excellent motivator. So, in a nutshell, how did you learn to be all these things? Was that through the study of the business of martial art or elsewhere?
I think it was, and I would definitely be remiss if I didn't point out my wife's role in the financial aspect of it like that. I don't handle that part of it, which helps a good bit, and that seems to be pretty typical on it like that.
But
Same
make
thing
sure you tell everybody in our audience that when you hand the money over, it's got to be to somebody that you trust.
Oh yes,
100%.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then having my wife handle it. Otherwise, that takes a whole load off of it like that.
Yeah.
but her mentality is different. As martial arts instructors, our biggest fault is that we love what we do.
Yes.
And we would do it for free.
Yes.
If possible on it like that. But
yes.
Going back to that one consultant, you know, I basically you're trading your future and your children's future for other people's futures on it like that. And there's no reason that you cannot be both successful in a financial aspect of it like that, financial or successful in a way that makes you feel good. I love what I do. I don't love what I do necessarily every part of every day.
Yeah.
I don't always want to be here at 5. I don't always want to be here late at night and stuff like that. Some things I don't like doing, but I love what I do. I love the effect. One of the good examples, we had a little girl several years ago. She cried on the floor. We do for our kids' classes. On our second class, we let them do a board break in front of the class. She wouldn't even do that. She eventually became not only a black belt, and she's a cheerleader for a local middle school now.
Okay.
So she went from not even being able to walk out on the floor in front of people like that to being a cheerleader. When you see that effect on the kids, and you see the same thing in a subtler way on adults.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, the adults benefit from it the same way on it like that. My first trip up to Mr. Horton's school obviously wasn't the same little kid, but I watched a 7-year-old get out in front of the class, and he probably had 80 people on the floor. The school is big, but it's not that big. These guys were crammed in there. Mm-hmm. And I watched this little 7-year-old get up there, bring the class to attention, bow them in, lead them through the exercises, and quite frankly, he did a better job than I could do.
Right.
And I walked away knowing that's like, I run a school, this is our 25th year. I'd run a school at that point for probably 23 years, and I couldn't have gotten a job up there.
Yeah.
Teaching.
Yeah.
You know,
the amazing thing about Mr. Horton's operation is that kid, he's not the only one who's capable of doing that. There was probably 5 other 7-year-old kids in the group that could do as good a job.
Oh, yes, sir. I guarantee you. I saw a bunch of them. I've been up there, spent 3 or 4 days at a time up there, and there's a whole bunch of them up there that can do that. And that right there will serve that child in the future much better than the technical expertise that he gets from the martial arts itself on it like that. You know? And that's just plain and simple in the end. If you want to have a dramatic impact on a child's life or an adult's life on it like that, that's what you want to teach them. The punches and kicks are just the method that we use to teach it. But you can have somebody, and I've seen highly skilled black belts that did not have that kind of command of like a group. They couldn't get out there and be that loud and that strong. I put myself right up there on it like that. I came back watching that and changed the way that I teach on it like that. And I signed up for his program after that. It's like I've got to be able to do that for myself so I can do it for my students, for my instructors, and for the students to come up after that. Okay.
So
that's what I want to give them. So.
Right. So what are you doing for staff development, for training people who teach at your school? What's just give me an idea of what the process is for them.
That's the process that we're working on. Every time I try to come back, first thing that I started doing when I started working with Mr. Horton is I went to work on myself first. So
okay,
you go back and look at the class and go, wow, and at that time, if you'd asked me if I was a good teacher, I would have said yes. We were successful. We probably had, we probably had 250 students then. By any measure, we were successful on it like that. But I originally went because there was something missing. The kids were all technically pretty good. They didn't have the level of emotion that I wanted them to have. And I just wasn't sure that this is going to be the benefit that we were promising. So I started on me, and now we work on the instructors the same way. So we have our instructors training twice a week, and that's the part I've got to get much better on, is translating that to my instructors so they can translate it better. Mr. Horton's system, he grows them. He grows instructors. We've had to hire instructors from what he calls Craigslist land. So you hire somebody with a martial arts background, and that it just never quite worked out. They don't have your values. They don't understand your culture. And so I'd already planned on opening up more locations, and I thought we were pretty close. But after seeing that, I was like, no, let's redraw those plans. We need to go back, redevelop the culture first, then and grow the instructors on it like that, and let the program grow on it like that. He's got 6 schools with, I think, another couple planned on it like that. But when I looked up there, what I saw was an entire army of chief instructors, and I was very glad that he was in Rhode Island, a long way away from me. I would be a lot worried if I was in the surrounding area and stuff on it like that.
So do you think that with all this experience that you've garnered over the years, do you think that Jeet Kune Do lacks anything that other martial art methods that they have? Does Jeet Kune Do lack anything, and therefore it becomes more difficult to promote it to that level?
I don't. I think what his program is a good example. Martial arts in general teaches discipline, focus, self-confidence. His program is designed to teach that intentionally, and I think that JKD has been too much on the surface with the technical aspect of it, and not enough for the benefit of like the character development stuff behind that. Without a doubt, the skills, the technical skills, are, I think, the best around. And I've trained in a lot of martial arts through the years on it like that. So, I'm not trained in all of them. Maybe there's other ones out there on it like that. But I think the combination of particularly Wing Chun, JKD, and then grappling, whether it's BJJ or CSW on it like that, are superlative in that aspect of it. But I don't think that we learned to teach. I didn't. I trained with Richie Abel, and I trained with another instructor, and I was, what they would call an orphan. He kind of went away, and I was kind of stuck. And he was ex-military, so his teaching style was not really very good. So I think in like ATA, Mr. Horton's system, and several other ones like that, they emphasize teaching people how to teach.
Yes.
And I don't think that so far that culture hasn't developed in JKD.
Okay.
So you have some phenomenal people, but I don't think that's getting translated as much on it like that. Right. We're too worried about the skill, getting the skills and stuff of it.
I think you may have answered this question, but this is what I had as my last question for you. What's the thing then about Jeet Kune Do that you've come to understand that you think a lot of other people still don't understand?
I would say that it's not about the technical aspect. That's got to be there, but that is the method and not the goal. The goal is, how do you develop the character of people? As well as I do, like, the world's changing a lot, and there's going to be, over the next 5 years, 10 years, there's going to be a huge change in the whole job structure. A lot of jobs are going to go away and stuff on it like that. But I think that with the right mindset, what we do will last. People are going to need something has become more isolated from each other. With social structure, we offer the physical benefits, but we've got to add that character development as well. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of that. And I think a lot of people teach that, but it's incidentally and not intentionally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Well,
and I think what you have to do is you have to have an intentional program on it like that, like Mr. Horton's program, and I'm using it as a good example because I know it better, where everything's congruent and layered from top to bottom.
Right.
It's all a process that moves them along in the same direction on it like that. One of the problems with JKD and with the way a lot of us learned it from seminars. So it's a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit this, a little bit that. Mm-hmm. I remember Guru Dan asked me one time if I knew how to do Sambrata, and I said, no, sir. And then he did it. It's like, oh, yeah, I do know how to do that. Yeah. I just had no idea what it was called.
Right. Yeah.
Or you'll see him do a drill, and you'll do a drill here, and you say, okay, well, I got drill A and drill B, and then you see him at another seminar, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's actually just one thing.
Yeah.
I just learned it in two pieces on it like that.
Right.
So there's a lot there, and you're probably like me. You probably got 50 notebooks full of stuff you don't understand.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're going to end on that note, Mark. But what you've just talked about there, this is why the Jeet Kune Do dialogues is going to be ongoing, because you just touched on some topics that we could go in depth, like curriculum design for successful Jeet Kune Do school, curriculum design and development. So there's a whole lot more. So we'll have to do this another time, right?
Yes, sir. I'm glad to. I'm honored to do that on it like that. And again, I want to thank you at that very beginning when we were at NAP on it like that. Those couple of conversations we had really changed the way that I thought about being it as a business and the potential of JKD and Wing Chun and stuff like that. We're talking JKD right now, but we include Wing Chun and stuff, everything in it for us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. And my passion for seeing Jeet Kune Do be ranked as one of the most successful martial art businesses has not died, even if my personal structure is a little bit different now, because I've gone back to the small group format.
Yes, sir.
But that's actually one of the reasons why I'm on Facebook doing what I'm doing, right? And so, like I've talked about before, one of the dreams is to one day have what I call a real instructors conference, where it's a conference about instructing.
Yes, sir.
Right? Because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take.
And that's what's missing, and we need successful models.
Yes.
That other people can follow. It's like the old thing with the long time ago, they couldn't break the 4-minute mile, and then once Bannister broke it, 12 people broke it right away. Mm-hmm. So once there's a handful of financially successful JKD based schools on it like that. Yeah. Once somebody sees how you can do that, and it's not selling out, you're not selling out the curriculum and stuff on it like that. We teach JKD to the kids, but we use a traditional karate belt structure. We play with a lot of things that works best to teach what we want to teach them and stuff on it like that. Yeah. But once you have some successful models, people will be able to look at that and go say, hey, I can do that. I can teach good martial arts. I can benefit. You can give value to people and benefit yourself as well. There's no reason that a successful martial arts instructor of any style shouldn't have a good standard of living as well.
Right.
You have to make more of yourself in order to give more. If you don't make more of yourself, and Sifu Fong told me that a long time ago. He said you can't just teach. One day if you just teach or just give and give and give, one day you don't have anything to give. Yeah. So a concept I heard the other day, which was awesome, was that you should give not of your cup, but of your saucer. So if you have a cup and a saucer, whatever overflows the cup and the saucer is what you give. Mm-hmm. But if you start giving from your cup, eventually you don't have anything left to give. So you have to make more of yourself so that you can give more to other people. You can't give what you don't have.
Excellent. Well said. Well said. All right. Thanks again, my friend. Right.
Thank you, sir.
Like I promised, we'll do this again.
Yes, sir. It sounds good. Anytime you're ready.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.